Good morning. Let me ask you a quick question. Have you ever met people who chase wealth, power, and status? And yet those same people seems to be the most miserable and despicable human being ever? Well, Friedrich Nietzsche had very peculiar word for those sort of individual. He liked to call them superfluous people. In the book that I have in my hands right now, the Spoke Zarathustra, he paints a sort of picture of those people. They are bitter, obsessed with material success, and yet those same people are spiritually empty. Do you want to know what I mean by that? Let me break it down for you. But before that, if you're new here, my name is Ivan. Welcome to Books by Ivan. I read books and I talk about them. And today we're going to dive into a gold mine of knowledge, a book written by Friedrich Nietzsche, the Spoke Zarathustra. I hope you guys enjoy. This is just going to be me breaking down some of the key points in part 1 of the book. With that being said, make yourself comfortable, grab a cup of coffee, and let me break down some of the most thought-intriguing quotes that I've read so far. Earlier, I mentioned superfluous people. Here's the quote, and I want you to listen to it and tell me what you guys think. Just look at the superfluous people. They are always ill. They vomit their bile and call it a newspaper. They devour one another and cannot even digest themselves. Just look at the superfluous people. They acquire wealth and make themselves poorer with it. They desire power, and especially the lever of power. These important people. When you heard that, what came to mind? When I read that quote, I read it as Friedrich Nietzsche is attacking a class of people, right? The people that are superficial or materialistic, are obsessed with wealth, power, status, right? Those people, they are obsessed with all of those great things, and yet they remain fundamentally weak. They are bitter, they are unfulfilled in life, they are despised by the people, right? He suggests, at least I'm assuming he does, he suggests that they lack true strength, they lack character, they lack a higher purpose for life because they are driven by money. So it's making them spiritually superfluous, also meaning redundant, or I guess you could say meaningless is the better word for the situation, right? Because people that desire power, and especially the lever of power, I read it as they crave power through financial means, and especially in today's day and time, if you have money, you can pretty much do everything and anything, right? But Friedrich Nietzsche called those superfluous people impotent, meaning that, as I said, they lack strength, will, or greatness to reach or to go for something further, something other than financial means, right? Their desire for power is hollow. They do not possess inner strength and or the ability that true power requires. Another quote that I read is that I feel like should be talked about is towards the very end of part 1. It goes something along the lines of, are you a slave? If so, you cannot be a friend. Are you a tyrant? If so, you cannot have friends. In women, a slave and a tyrant have all too long been concealed. For that reason, woman is young and capable of friendship. She knows only love. Me, in this video, we're going to break down only the first part. Are you slave? To you cannot have friends. That first part. Right. Well, how I read it is that, right, in a good, genuine, great friendship, both people needs to be equal. They both needs to be free. Friendship requires freedom and equality. It cannot be just freedom without equality. It cannot be equality without freedom, because that can't be a good friendship or a good society to begin with. So how I read it, how I understood it is, if you're too weak to stand on your own, aka a slave, or if you like to dominate over people, a tyrant, I read it as you are incapable of having a deep, meaningful relationship or even a true friendship with people, right? This reflects on the psychology, or I should say philosophy, that emphasizes that strength, self-mastery, and rejection of both servitude and oppressive control. You need to be free, you need to be equal, to be in harmony with one another, to come close to one another. And I honestly resonate with this because I've seen some friendship where one person is treated less than the other, and in my heart I've always had this terrible hollow feeling that shouldn't be right, and that there's something that needs to be done about the situation, because I cannot call that friendship. I call that modern day, a sub-part of modern day slavery. You call that person a friend, and yet you don't invite them to go out. You don't just hang out with them. You just let them do your errands for you. You mistreat them. That's not a true friendship, right? So I resonate with this part, and I feel like more relationship needs to be based on equality and freedom, that both people needs to be treated the same and it needs to be equal. What do you guys think? Now let's go into the last quote of the day, because I'm trying to keep this video under 15 minutes. I don't want to keep talking and bore you guys. So with that being said, listen and tell me what you guys think. You tell me life is hard to bear, but if you were otherwise, why would you have your pride in the morning and your resignation in the evening? Life is hard to bear, but do not pretend to be so tender. We are all of us pretty fine asses and assesses of burdens. What we have in common with the rosebud which trembles because a drop of dew is lying upon it? It is true, we love life, not because we are used to living, but because we are used to loving. What I understood from this is that Friedrich Nietzsche is encouraging people to embrace the difficulties of life, the struggle that comes with living. He is rejecting the self-pity. I guess that's the right way to say it. And he's encouraging us to embrace the difficulties instead of lamenting on them, instead of just complaining. Just accept it, right? Because hardship is not something to whine about. I've been through quite a few, so I guess you could say I don't have the credentials, but I went through some really hardest events in my life. So once again, I really really emphasize with it. I really understand this. It resonates with me, right? Hardship is not something to whine about. Out of hardship comes strength, pride, and endurance, right? Because once you've been through that hard time, you're prideful, you gain a new strength because you've learned something. So I should say, or I guess what he's trying to say, what we are both saying is stop pretending to be so fragile, you know, and carry your burden like the rest of humanity. I'm not trying to be mean or anything, but just because one bad thing happens to you in particular, the world doesn't have to end. There are other people out there that are having worse time than you have. So stop pretending and carry your burden like the rest of us. This will be all for. Hopefully this video isn't too long and you guys didn't get bored listening to me talking. This is just some of the few paragraphs that I have highlighted in this book that I talked about. If you guys have something you want to say from any of these passages of anything else in the book, let me know and look forward to my next video. As always, it's better to read than not to read. Have a good day and be good people. Bye.